Hi, today I just want to talk about a React app that I just built. It's basically something that, probably we see a lot these days with the situation that's going around. I just wanted to use the time to build something that shows my knowledge of React hooks and fetching APIs with the new React hooks 08 and async functions. So here we can, as you can see, I'm just going to get started real quick. I have three components. It's a very simple app. It's three components. It has cards. It has a country picker, which allows you to go through a list of countries, and as well as a chart. The chart is imported with React Chart.js. The styling is a little bit done with Material-ui core. And yep, let me just show you real quick how my code looks like. So as you can see here, I have my index.js file, importing React and React DOM. From React DOM, I'm importing the app, everything. So it's the app component is rendered in the React DOM, and document get element by ID. It's just basically the only thing that's in the HTML file in the index.js file, index HTML file in the body. So everything, all the components are in our app. So let's go to our app here. As you can see, we have our React, import React from React, all importing all components. As you can see, this is something that really cool that I just learned not too long ago. We can just basically write all components under one line. As you can imagine, it can get pretty long when you're importing a lot of different components. All of them are basically saved under the components folder. If you do not name anything else, it just directly goes to the first thing it looks for is your index.js file. Here we're exporting as default our card charts country pickers from the components file. Yep. So the first thing I gets done here, this is the only class-based component here. We are rendering our three components here, as you can see, cards, country picker, and charts. Right after it renders, it runs a component mount function. We have a async await function here, which basically asynchronously fetches data from the API that I think is pretty cool. While that is being fetched, when that promise is returned, it's waiting for that promise to return. Once it's returned, we're setting it to data response. And that data response is basically setting the state, which is data. So our data, our state would be data response. Now, so with that data, we are passing it to our components. Data equals data. Here, same thing here with the chart, data equals data. And if you go to our charts and our cards, you can see individual one. I use the CSS. I style it with modules with the class name as well. So here you can see this individual cards component would have its own module CSS. I think that's pretty cool as well because every one of them have you can have a container class, and that container class would just be for that component. So like as you can see here, we're doing this import CX with class names. With over here, we're importing the styles from cards module because this is the component that we're importing it from. We got our styles card. So if you can have multiple, right? So if you have a styles.container just like here and another component, it would know because we are just importing it from here, from our cards module.css, cards.module.css. Now here I have our three cards showing. I know it's not the most efficient way. Just wanted to get this done. Ideally, I would like to I want to map through this and display the individual results from our dynamically from our data. And so once we get our data from our app.js folder, we have setting the data to. So I actually did the console log and saw what we're returning. We have our confirm, recovered, defs, and update. That's because there's a lot more things that are returned there. So in the data, we're setting another object. We're setting it up to our confirm, return, recovered, defs, and update. That's the only information that I need to populate my cards and my chart. So that's what we're returning. So while that is, so here I have an if statement. So if confirm is not true, which is a faulty value, I want to just display, it just should display loading. And if it's not, then we're going to return our cards. Here, again, we're using the Material UI. We're importing the styling here. If I don't do this, it's probably a lot more CSS files that we have to write, a lot of CSS styling that we have to do. I think that's pretty cool with Material UI. I can actually do that. Here with extra small displays, it would have 12 columns versus a medium-sized display, it would have 3 columns. Here we have our infected styling, recovered styling, def styling. If we go in here, you can see I have, the whole container is a flex container with the flex direction, align center, margins 50, top, bottom, and left and right is 0. With the card, the reason why I have it as important is because we are setting the margin specifically on the side different from what we have it on the card that is provided with Material UI. So I'm overriding what Material UI provides us. Again, here we have in our individual card, we have our infected. The reason why I did this is that because I wanted the next thing we have is with our country picker. I basically have our form control and our native select. It's basically a drop-down menu with our options. It's set to a empty array, empty string. Once we have a event handler here, which basically calls the API in our app.js file. And as you can see here, our event handler is an asynchronous function that has async and wait. Once that country is passed in, we will await for fetch data with the country's name to return and set it to fetched data. Here you can see in our API, as you can see, our fetch data, our fetch country data would be basically, I'm using Axios. So we have trial and catch blocks. I think it's pretty cool because with Ajax functions, which is also something that I use all the time, we can actually, it won't return the promise if there's a 400 or 500 series error with the trial and catch block. While with a Ajax function, you actually have to debug it yourself. So here with our trial and catch block, we have, we're waiting for, it's an async function again. We're waiting for this to return. And here, as you can see on the top here, I have a if statement. If there's a country, I'm changing the URL, variable URL, passing it in, and then doing a string template with the country's name. Returning that country with the map of the countries. And then in our country picker, you can see with the countries, we're mapping through it. As you know, with React, we need to have a key, and that key, I'm setting it to that index variable as we're mapping through it. So it iterates over it and increases the value. So here the value of the country is the country. It will show all the countries as you click. There are 188 countries in this list. So it will show up on every single one of those countries. Instead of creating 188 options with values, we can just do this way. The last thing I want to show you is with the charts. It's basically the same thing. We have our data. We have our now API. We have our fetch daily data. We're getting the daily data. We're modifying that data to daily data. We're setting our total number of deaths, confirm, report daily, and we go back to our charts. We can see, here I'm using our use effect, use state and use effect, which is what we use in React hooks instead of creating, it's basically the same as doing a class and then setting state to an empty array and then setting it up. So here you can see I have a const with daily data, which would be a empty array, empty object, and then setting that object using the use state, right? So here in the use effect, I'm calling the API, it's an async function. Once this is promised is returned, it's filled, we will set it to set daily data. So set daily data will be awaiting for this to complete and then setting it to that. Here we're doing a callback function with the Flex API. Here I have two different charts. So I have a line chart and a bar chart, which I'm importing from, again, from Chartjs. The line chart is basically what it will show when you're showing the global data. With two data sets, one data set will be every time you click on it, it will, you hover over it, you will see a label with infected. The other one will see deaths, and the colors again are green and blue. It'll be filled to true if it's confirmed, right? Next thing I have is a bar chart. The bar chart only displays if I have a country in there. A country is confirmed. So as you can see here, this will only display this another ternary operator with the daily data dot length. So dot length, I use it this way is that if it's 0, it's going to be returning falsy. It's a falsy value, so it will just be null. If it's more than 0, it'll be true, and we can fill the data with the information that we get from the API. So here as well, in our return statement here, we have our country, which will be true or falsy. If it's true, it will show the bar chart. If it's false, it will show the line chart. Real quick, I'll just show you how the app works, and should be good. Here we have, again, we have our 3 components with the information pre-filled. Here we have our country list. As you click on the country, let's select any country here. As you can see, let's show something that has much higher death rate. So you can see the red as well. As you can see here, if you hover over it, you will see a label with the infected people and the number of people infected. Now, if you go back to your global chart, it will go back to your line chart and it has that dots, which is basically your daily updates, and it shows you that. You can also click on the labels here to display only one or the other. I hope you like my presentation. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn username is AmitNYC83 yep. Thank you.